of governmental organizations and elections. We've got a rather long agenda. We're going to, over the next 3 weeks, we're going to miss a couple of meeting dates due to Easter and Memorial Service, so we're trying to get everything in that we can. And I may bounce around just a little bit today, although Senator Cunningham is not here. And I was going to go with him first. Well, I guess without that, we will start the Tony Duggar show. We may have to stop it briefly when Senator Cunningham gets here, but Representative Duggar, if you would introduce HB 1126, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for hearing my bills today. I totally appreciate that.
This is definitely Tony Duggar Day.
For the record, my name is Tony Duggar, and I represent the 141st District, which is all of Wright County and the eastern half of Webster County. The first bill I bring to you is House Bill 1126, and it's a simple, short bill. What we are doing with this bill is it changes the deadline for the second vote on a failed annexation, and it changes it from 120 days to 160 days. So currently, if you have an annexation vote and it fails, then you have 120 days to have that second election. And here's the problem that we ran into. Over the past few years, we eliminated the June election, and then we took the February election and made it only apply to certain situations. And so now there's no election date at times that falls within that 120 days. And so the issue came up with the Cooper County Clerk, and he brought this to me. So I'm extending it to the 160 days. That way there'll always be an election date that falls in there for that second annexation. And that's all I'm doing with this bill.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the sponsor? Got any witnesses that you want to call? Okay, I'll ask for anyone in favor of HB 1126 to step forward, please. Anyone in favor? Seeing none. Anyone against HB 1126? Seeing none. Anyone for informational purposes only on HB 1126?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. Representative, why is there even a date on this type of thing for an annexation? I mean, why is there 120 days in the first place?
Well, I think it's because it's the second vote on it.
Yeah.
So it's failed, and so
if they don't have
it's the time limit that they give them to do it.
if they don't have the election within 120 days, then they can't have a second.
If they have to wait, I believe it's for 2 years.
For 2 years
before they can.
Okay. Okay. Well, I didn't know about the 2 year one.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? With seeing none, that will close the hearing on HB 1126. That's what I'm probably going to interrupt the Duggar show. There's some. I think the same bill that you're doing is in the House at 1:30. People that are here to hear this one would like to make both meetings, so we're gonna run your bill right quick and try to do a courtesy for those people if we can. Yes, but before I do that, I'm going to call roll, or while you're heading down there, Senator, I'm going to call roll. Roll call, please.
Senators Watson.
Here.
Cunningham.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Kraus.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Sater.
Here.
Wallingford. Kennedy.
Here.
Lavoda.
Here.
Simpson.
Okay, we do have a form. We are an official meeting. Senator Cunningham to introduce Senate Bill 955.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Mike Cunningham, District 33, here to present Senate Bill 955. This bill deals with the Real Estate Appraisal Board, and after several years of numerous complaints about some things that should be straightened up in the board, I filed this bill. And basically, the main thing provision of it probably requires them to not extend an investigation over 6 months. And some of these, in my own personal experience, finally last summer on a complaint I probably filed 4 years ago, I finally got an answer on it last summer. And I know several people that they've done this too. It's kind of like whenever there's a federal program thing, you hire an attorney and then it seems like they almost financially break you by continuing these investigations. You have to come up here, then the hearing's called, or they notify your attorney that that's been called, so they have to turn around and write a letter back at that time, and it just continues on and on and on. The appraisal board the other day, just raised somebody over the coals because they didn't charge enough. I didn't think that would be their position. In my own case, personally, I was going through a divorce at the time, and they told me they could not render a decision on divorce things. And so that's primarily why the bill came up. The bill does require them 6 months to do an investigation. It also requires that they lose 7 board members, and I think there's only 2 that's term on their president that haven't expired, but and they are too short right now too. But it does require each one to come from a different congressional area, so they can't all be from the same area. President of the board does a good thing in that they try and get an agricultural person, a commercial business person, residential person, all that. But I think it's only fair that they should come from different congressional districts. The bill does eliminate the possibility of a person being able, on the board, to make a decision on someone in a fellow competitor of theirs. I think that's something that should be laid out there. Any questions I'd be glad to answer.
Any questions? Yes, Senator Pierce.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly understand your frustration. I think that's one thing that frustrates all of us when people don't get timely and efficient responses from whatever governmental agency and department it is. You know, we've talked a lot about boards and commissions and positions not being filled by the administration, and I know I had some folks back home who served on this that were concerned because at times they didn't have enough for a forum to meet. So I guess, could part of the problem in the past have been because there wasn't a fully appointed commission and maybe there wasn't a forum, or did that have to deal any with your not getting a timely response and things like
I
that?
really don't know, and, you know, there could be an amendment put in there where board positions, I think they would build, you know, take
Right.
care of that now.
I think Senator Dixon is working on
But
that.
we can also put that in this particular bill amendment where the positions may be not. I really don't know if that had anything to do with mine or not, but it's not fair to the citizens.
Oh, you're exactly
Go
right.
through that.
Right. Mhm.
And financially, it almost broke this one appraiser because her attorney fee, finally she just gave in and said, okay, I'll just kind of plead.
Cut her
guilty
losses.
that you know, she agreed to let them stick her on probation at that time, which is her business because that's the public record.
Right.
Had she known it's gonna do that, I don't think she would have ever consented. They're financially breaking her. And in her case, some of it went to the appraisal board, and it went to the attorney general's office, and then the person who normally represents the state in that case, he was going through some health issues and took him a while to do it. Why they didn't appoint someone else, I really don't know. But I'm not accusing her, I think the citizen should come first.
Mm.
And it's not a very glamorous board, it's not one of those, it's glamorous competition position. I would partner with it's still surely, the way it's set up right now, before the term expires, the president of the board is supposed to submit 5 applications to the governor's office to fill, and then 90 days before the term expires. So there should have been a pretty good list out there.
Mm-hmm. There should be. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions for the sponsor? Do you have witnesses you want to call?
Not aware of any.
Okay, I will call for anyone who wishes to testify in favor of Senate Bill 955. Anyone in favor? Question?
Looks like there's no one in favor, so I'd like to save a question for that, but if they're not in favor.
Okay, go right ahead.
I was going to save it for a witness, because you may not know the answer to this, but I was just curious. When I talk about the commission may at its discretion investigate anonymous complaints, I just know how many they receive now and what
I
they do with
don't have
anonymous
a clue about
complaints.
that. There has been some problems over in your area. I've had numerous appraisers talk to me. In my own complaint, I was told it one didn't get filed because the person filing against you is on the board president right now. And that's one of those reasons I think we should have a different suggestion. And everyone should feel like we'd be short one with 7 members in districts, but I think everyone should feel like they should have someone out there. Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask again, anyone in favor? Seeing none. Anyone to testify against Senate Bill 955?
I'll let my name that is said, that's okay, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Just briefly. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Pat Strader, I represent the Bureau of Appraisers Advisory Council. I've been with them since 1997, and many bills have been before you as we oftentimes, because the Appraisers Commission is probably one of the few professions out there that is so attached to the federal law. And when the appraisal subcommittee comes to Missouri to audit the appraisers commission, if they find things that need to be corrected or that are out of bounds with the federal regulations, then they give Missouri time to get those back in line, and then they'll come back and audit them again. And with the testimony here, I didn't make copies for everyone, but there is a letter from the appraisal subcommittee that basically after they had been here and done an audit, they told the commission what it was they needed to fix. A couple of things I wanted to bring out, and Dave is here to answer any questions that you have. You have to understand that we believe this, the NRAC is there to protect the interest of the public, and that is their first and foremost job. And while we do believe that they do work with appraisers and assist appraisers, that is their primary job. But I know with talking with them the last couple of years, they've made a big effort to try to work with people and verbally suggest they take certain classes in order for them not to get probation, because it does make it harder to go out and get on some of the appraisal panels if you have probation. So I know they try to work with that, and they take the classes, they'll go back and look at a couple more of their appraisals, and then hopefully that fixes the problem. I have a couple of issues here that I can bring up to you. There are currently 2,752 licensed appraisers in the state. I don't have that broken down.
How many?
2,752. I don't have that broken down between licensed, certified residential, certified general, but we can get that for you. Just to show you kind of a wide range of complaints, in fiscal year 07, there were 118. Fiscal year 08, there were 60. Fiscal year 09, there were 143. Fiscal year 10, 90. Fiscal year 11, 80. Fiscal year 12, 72. Fiscal year 13, 59. And so far this year, fiscal 14, there's been 36. The numbers have been going down, I think, as they try to work with people more, as I said earlier. When you look at the national chart, and I don't have it with me, but it is available. Missouri is pretty much in line with other states of similar sizes, and that information is available, I'm sure, from the commission. I don't have it. The fiscal note assumes that if the commission must pay for the appraisals, and that is in section 339.531.5, concern is that appraisers today pay a pretty large appraisal fee already, license fee. So I'm assuming that money to pay for those appraisals would come from other appraisers' licensing fees. I'm a little bit concerned about that. My understanding was that after the appraisal subcommittee came the last time, that the appraisal commission has 12 months in order to do something with the appraisal and hand it off. Once it goes to the administrative hearing commission, or if it goes to the attorney general's office, at that point it's out of their hands. And that time, that run of time is a little different, but my understanding is 12 months. We could check on that. I think that's accurate. So with that, I really don't have anything else to add. I'd like to thank Dorn. Dave Dorn is a member of the Missouri Appraisers Advisory Council, has been for a number of years, owns a business here in Memphis City, and has offices throughout the state, and is very knowledgeable about the industry, and works also with Washington groups.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Please leave the witness form. Okay.
Thank you. As Pat said, my name is David Duane. I'm a real estate appraiser. I'm a certified residential real estate appraiser in the state of Missouri. I've been doing this, this is my 29th year of being involved as a professional real estate appraiser. As Pat has said, I'm engaged in a lot of activities involving legislation and things across not only the state level, but I also serve on national committees to work with the federal government and federal legislation to try to provide some measure of reason and with respect to rules, regulations, and law. I am here not representing the Missouri Real Estate Appraisers Commission. I'm not a member of that commission, but I am here speaking on behalf of the Missouri Appraiser Advisory Council, which is made up of a coalition of professional appraisal organizations in the state of Missouri, as well as supports the interests of individual appraisers, bring issues to our attention. With respect to Senate Bill 955, I would like to just bring up a couple of points that I think are worth considering. We're speaking to some extent against certain provisions. However, I think there are certain areas that we feel our testimony is more for information only. We do have some concerns that we'd like to bring out with respect to the selection of the requirement of Section 239-5072 that states that real estate appraiser members shall not be from the same U.S. congressional district. I understand the interest in the intent of trying to provide geographical diversity for members of the commission. I think that's well intended and it really shows sound judgment. However, with the way the congressional districts are constructed, sometimes we're concerned with how they tend to meander into the various political power areas, and they may not truly represent different areas of the state. You could have, with some motivation, you could conceivably have a high concentration of official made law, high concentration of members of the commission, being from more populated areas, just the way that congressional districts are drawn. We think there is a need and a benefit to having geographically dispersed and geographically comprehensive. But there may be a better way of doing it other than this. With respect to Section 339-531-3, which states a copy of any written answer of the licensee requested pursuant to subsection 2 of this section may not or may be furnished to the complainant. I'm speaking here at this point as I'm an appraiser qualification board certified USPAT instructor, and I'm one of 500 or so in the country that are qualified to teach classes on uniform standards of professional appraisal practice. USPAT is a document that is designed to protect and ensure the independent nature, impartiality, and unbiased nature of appraisers. It also is intended to protect the interests of the public in providing for measures to ensure that confidential information is not broadcast to parties who aren't, for which it wasn't intended or not suitable to receive it. Excuse me. The Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, which is our guidelines, is our rule, and is our law that we must adhere to in performing our duties, states that an appraiser must protect the confidential nature of the appraiser-client relationship. Our concern with the commission being compelled to provide a copy of the resolution of a complaint to the complainant, that it could result in confidential information that is confidential between the appraiser and the client that might be a part of that complaint, the recipient of that complaint's response actually being improperly disclosed to third parties. USPAT says that the appraiser must not disclose the confidential nature of confidential information or assignment results to anyone other than the client, person specifically authorized by the client, state appraisal regulatory agencies such as the commission, third parties as authorized by due process of law, and a duly authorized professional peer review committee. The purpose of this is to protect the confidential interests of the client. I'm concerned that in the event that the commission is compelled or is given the opportunity to provide complaint results to complainants, that the confidential information could be provided to unintended parties, and it could circumvent the intent of protecting client confidentiality. With respect to 339-531-3, 531-4, which states no investigations will last longer than 6 months, and once an investigation is closed or dismissed, it shall not be reopened. Our concern is merely a practical one. We certainly are interested in the quick resolution of investigations. Investigations are always unpleasant, sometimes unwarranted. They can result from complaints that are unjust. They can result from signed complaints as well as unsigned anonymous complaints. However, we are concerned that a 6-month time limit could be inappropriate in cases where the situations may be complex and there may be legitimate reasons for the process to take longer than 6 months. We know there is in the administrative process that allows complaints to the appraisal commission. There is a process there is a procedure that ensures due process to the party that has been complained against. And that due process can be protracted through various legal maneuvers if the party receiving the complaint chooses to take certain legal measures. I've seen cases that have gone on for years, not because of the commission not wanting to resolve it, but because the party receiving the complaint has an attorney that is able to utilize certain legal mechanisms. And I've seen attorneys resign before a hearing date.
So you're saying the reason it could take a long time is because some lawyer gets involved?
No, not necessarily a lawyer. I'm just saying because, but lawyers do understand due process.
Well, I mean, really, is there an excuse for not having an answer for somebody more than a year?
I can't speak to that.
Well, I can't.
Okay.
There's not.
Okay. I do know that sometimes complaints do take some time to investigate. I don't have a magic number. Our concern is merely, Mr. Chairman, that would be some measure of reason here, not hamstring the commission with something that is inappropriate.
What do you think that this bill does? You worried about information, private information leaking out. What does this bill do differently than what is there now as far as that's concerned? As far as protecting someone's private information?
Well, as I understand it from talking to people and then actually being involved in complaints over my 29 years, the result of the investigative process and the resolution of the commission and the agreement between what is done is a matter of public record. However, the actual process and information that is completed during the course of that investigation may not be. In other words, the records that were subpoenaed are provided.
So in that case, what you're really saying is the only way to keep public information from coming out is not do a report on this, right? Not give them an answer?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that certain items that the commission gathers in the course of their complaint investigation and that.
But that's no different today than it would be if this bill passed. I mean, if I'm understanding his bill, it's basically saying speed the process up. It's not saying give out different information than you're giving out today or more information than you're giving out today. It's just saying speed the process up.
It says that, but it also states that the complainant would be given a copy of the resolution of the complaint. And our concern is there may be issues that are contained in that complaint resolution process that may not be appropriate for that complainant to see because of the confidential nature of that information.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
Yes, just one or two other things.
It's gonna have to be pretty brief. We've got
Okay.
9 other bills.
Only with respect to the concern about the members of the commission should not be engaged in investigating complaints where the party that the complaint is being filed against, it could be considered a direct competitor. I'm concerned without a good definition of direct competitor, that may be actually cause problems with the process of investigating and adjudicating complaints. The commission has a number of its members have very unique appraisal specialties, and they try to put people on the commission specifically for that reason, such as they try to have an agricultural appraiser. They try to have somebody who's familiar with commercial properties, industrial, so on and so forth. With residential appraisers, it's not a big issue. Most residential appraisers work in a geographical area, and I am not a competitor, say, with someone in St. Joseph, Missouri. But for ag appraisers, they may work the entire state. For commercial appraisers, their area of competition may be within the entire borders of the state. They're put on the commission because of their subject matter expertise. We are concerned that by limiting or making them, forcing them to recuse themselves or withdraw from an investigation where they are in fact an expert because they may be a competitor of sorts, is to the detriment of the public, serving the public interest. And I will also point out all appraisers are sworn by their certification to be, as a professional appraiser, to be independent, impartial, and without bias. Members of the appraisal commission are appraisers, and when they're acting as members of the commission, they are still acting as appraisers, and they still have to maintain that same measure of independence and impartiality and acting without bias. We think that that provision could have some unintended consequences.
Okay.
That really encapsulates, summarizes our concerns.
Questions?
Yes.
You're concerned about the length of the investigation, so they may be complex, but in there it also says that they take longer than that, then they get an update every 60 days. Wouldn't that satisfy? I'd certainly like to know what was going on every once in a while. Otherwise, it sounds like we could go for a year and we wouldn't even know what was happening.
That may be a reasonable option.
Thank you.
Yes.
The Missouri Appraisal Advisory Council is made up of the profession, right?
Yes.
And you're in opposition to
And
this.
only.
It seems as though this bill is for the profession, to help build the profession up. So with that said, isn't usually a complainant the client?
Not always.
Who else would be a complainant?
It could be another appraiser. It could be a member of the general public. And not all complaints involve appraisals. It could be a complaint regarding business practices.
Okay,
Somebody
but that
doesn't-
wouldn't be against use tax, right?
Well, it could be if you could make a use tax complaint that somebody's advertisement
Okay.
was contrary to use tax.
Okay, but with that said, when the copy of the written answer to the licensee, that would not go in any violation of confidentiality between the appraiser and the client.
The resolution of it would not.
Right.
perhaps, But the contents of the investigation may.
Well, this is asking for a copy of the written answer to the licensee's request. This doesn't have all the information. All this phrase does is tell the member of the profession that what is going on. Now, you said that 6 months isn't long enough. How much is long enough?
I'm not saying that it isn't long enough, Senator. I'm merely stating that it may not be in certain instances.
I think that's the crux of the issue. And I'm surprised that as you represent members of the profession, that you're here against that provision, because, I would think, as I strongly support this bill, if there was a reasonable case that a year made sense, or a year and a half made sense, I think I'd be open to it. But instead, this open-ended witch hunt that this appraisal board goes after people continually, and then they go after one complaint, and then they look at another appraisal, and then they find another complaint, just to keep people on the line. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that 6 months or a year, or whatever it may be, is only reasonable for the profession. Now, you didn't like the congressional district. How else would we do that if we to make it geographic around the state?
I don't have any set answer. I know there are different geographical districts that may be set up in the state for regional planning agencies that have been set up that may or may not reflect voting patterns and things like that. Our concern is one merely that we think it's important that there be geographical diversity on the appraisal commission.
That's what the Senate's trying to do.
Yes, I understand that, and our concern is that mainly the congressional district.
What would be the alternative to that?
As I said, there may be.
Each congressional district is made up of that many citizens of Missouri. It's drawn that way.
Mhm.
So, and it's supposed to be in like-minded areas. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Reading your thing here, I'm kind of confused because you didn't like the part where it says members shall not be from the same congressional district. And it says might be worded better by using the following. It says no two or more real estate appraisers may be from the same country. Well, so you're saying you can't have two or more, which means we're down to the one again.
Right, and that was just a constructive comment, is that we were trying to make any of the